welcome to the Soulish Podcast. My name is Whitney Apke, and I am your host. I'm so excited that you are here to listen to my new podcast series, Soulish. Here, I'll be talking all about the ish of our souls. The ish being negative thought patterns, blockages, challenges, but also the victories, aha moments, and breakthroughs we experience in our mind, emotions, and will. We'll dive deep and talk about everything in between, of course. I'm excited to share my experiences and thoughts, as well as bring on guests who can help us make the connections between our spirit, soul, and body. It's my desire to uplift, encourage, and inspire you in each podcast. Welcome to episode 8 of the Soulish Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again for this week and for this little mini series that we're having about negative thought patterns. The first week of this mini series, we talked about negative self-reflection. That was 2 episodes ago, episode 6. And then in episode 7 last week, we talked about overthinking. And this week, I want to talk about critical thinking. And critical thinking, I don't mean like the problem-solving kind of thinking. I mean critical, which is thinking and reacting in an angry or judgmental way with mistrust of other people, yourself, or God / the universe / source / the higher being, however you relate to that. Which this is a problem because if you're critical of yourself, if you're critical of others, if you're critical of God or the source, then that really causes your world to be colored in a not so great way. And I think of being critical, judgmental, as kind of like a fungus. And if that's gross, then maybe like a flesh-eating disease. And if that's not any better, then maybe like I don't know, like an internal something that eats you from the inside out. Is that better? Probably not. But I think that it takes over the pureness, the innocence, the most authentic part of yourself, which is to be kept safe and secure and not tainted by a critical or judgmental thought or way of thinking towards yourself, other people, God, the universe, source. So it actually can cause you to react in a way that is totally out of line and not even related to a situation because you're just automatically assuming by default that everyone is a threat, that all men or all women cheat, they take advantage, people let you down, they deceive you, and they cause you harm, they hurt you, right? So why trust anybody? Why make friends? I felt that way in high school. You know, it was so difficult to navigate the social structure of private school. And you would think private school would be a little bit easier than public school, but I actually found public school a little bit easier because people were more accepting in a sense. I found a group way easier in public school than I found in private school because they were all snotty and judgmental. So it was hard to not then judge them because I knew they were judging me. And so that way of life is really toxic, which is maybe a better way of saying it than fungus, but it's toxic. It's a toxic way of living life and a toxic perspective to have of other people, yourself. And it basically involves you interpreting other people's behavior in the worst ways. You know, you're automatically assuming the worst of either a situation or a circumstance or intentions or just how people are going to react to you. You just automatically assume they're not going to accept you or they're going to laugh at you or whatever. And that may come from past experiences where you were laughed at or where you were made fun of or where people turned on you in a situation or your friends, your confidants, the people that you told your most trusted secrets to, blabbed them everywhere. And not just maybe in school, but maybe in the workplace even. And you've just had that happen to you in your family life, in school, in work. So why continue the cycle of trusting people and having that continue to happen in your life where you continue to get hurt. And it's a valid response to continually having something happen, but it's not the correct way or the most beneficial way to you to react. Instead, you need to learn from those situations and either learn that people need to earn my trust. I don't just freely give it. I don't just freely give information that is precious to me, right? So that would be the takeaway, not I can't trust anyone ever, because that's not true. There's plenty of people out there that you can totally trust and that will definitely earn it because they value you and they value your trust. They value your opinion because they think the best of you and they love you and they want to be a part of your life and your thoughts and how you feel matters to them. So there are definitely people out there. It's just a matter of finding those people. But how you find those people is you say, over time, you earn my trust. And if you see somebody talking about somebody else to you or to the group, then you probably know that they're going to do the same thing to you, right? That's a good indicator that that's a gossiper, that that's somebody that you don't want to trust with your secrets, with the things that are precious to you, that mean something to you. And so that's a good way to react to negative experiences that have happened. Take a step back and look at the whole picture and see whether or not there's something that you need to adjust with how you're either trusting, behaving, reacting, because just outright mistrusting everybody and chopping everybody up into the same salad isn't the way to go. You definitely want to take a step back and use wisdom and intuition with why did this keep happening? I made myself vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that. But who did I make myself vulnerable with? Because that is most likely the reason why that negative experience happened. Critical thinking can ruin your relationships and increase your health risks. It can actually cause like hypertension and high blood pressure because it's adding stress. You're negative all the time and constantly judging others. And that takes a lot of energy. That's actually the same thing as unforgiveness is basically what it is. It's just now it's a mental game for you. And so you don't want to hold something up against somebody. Instead, you want to forgive them, right? And you take back the wisdom from that situation, and that's what you walk away with. That's what you hold on to, but you don't want to hold something against somebody because it doesn't really affect them. It affects you. It takes energy away from you. It takes thoughts away from you. It takes emotions away from you and onto this person that may not even be aware of it or care. And so unforgiveness is not for the other person. It really is for you. And that can change the way that you think, including how you are so critical and judgmental of others. Research actually shows that critical thinking is associated with heart disease and shorter telomeres. And telomeres, if you don't know, are the protective coverings at the ends of your chromosomes that fray with age. So shorter telomeres or frayed telomeres are a sign of cellular aging. So literally being critical and judgmental of people speeds up your aging process because of how much stress it adds to your body. Can you believe that? It's crazy. So you don't want that, right? You don't want to age and be old at, 30, 40, 50, whatever. You don't want to be looking like you're 90, 80 years old, all wrinkly and all that. You don't want to have health risks just because you couldn't forgive and you couldn't take the wisdom from life experience and give people the benefit of the doubt anymore. You don't want that. You don't want that kind of life. It's not fun. And I think, there's a difference between seeing something happen multiple times and going, okay, well, I'm going to step to the left because I know what's going to happen right now. And that's wisdom, right? is knowing which way to go because something has happened over and over and over and over and over again. Even my dog, who just turned 1, knows when I grab my purse, when he hears the jingle of the keys, he knows what's happening and he has a reaction every time. When he was really young, he didn't quite know what that meant. And so he was kind of unaware and would be chomping on his bone. Now he whips his head over and runs quickly over and tries to beg me to take him with me. So now he knows what that means, that I'm leaving for a short time, I'll be back, but he wants to go with. So his reaction is completely changed because out of 9 months of me having him, because I adopted him at 3 months, he knows out of 9 months of experiencing that little jingle jingle and me grabbing my purse that it means something, right? That's taking from experience. Is he judging me for leaving him? No. Does he not love me anymore because I leave him for an hour or two? No, he doesn't. He doesn't judge me for it, but he knows how to react now because sometimes I give in. He's just so cute. And that little cry, I can't do it. Sometimes I can't deal. My mom heart just melts and I'm like, okay, you can come with me. And that's that. But, if a dog can pick that up, but have no judgment, right? He knows that it's not a reflection on him. He knows that I don't love him any less, whether I take him with me or not. He doesn't even think like that. And we need to be present like that in our life. That's how we need to function. Sometimes people react or act out or speak or, do things that has nothing to do with you, but we automatically assume that it has everything to do with us. And that's when we go wrong and we start judging people's motives. We start assigning motives, which is a slippery slope. If you've ever done that in a relationship, you know that assigning motives doesn't get you anywhere good in a relationship or with family members, or friendships. So what do we do instead? Mother Teresa's quote on this, I just love, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. And that's just so good because she was so well known for loving people. You can see in her face and if you've ever read her story, the things that she went through, that didn't ever taint her. She didn't just, kiss children and hold babies her whole life. She dealt with people with real issues, people that were screwed over, people that were stolen from, beaten to death. She saw a lot of shit in her life, but she chose to not judge them, but to love them instead, whether they were the abuser or they were the abused. Hey everyone, I have some exciting news to share with you. Next Saturday, July 18th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I am hosting my first online workshop, and it's all about negative thought patterns. This workshop is designed to help you start discovering, accessing, healing, and restoring your mind. As you participate in the workshop and feel the support of others who are on the same journey, as well as begin using the personalized daily affirmation we will create together as a self-inquiry and self-discovery tool, you will begin to realign with your values and purpose and experience life without blockages, limitations, or internal conflict. I am so excited to share with you the methods and practices that have changed my life. To sign up, go to whitneyapke.com/workshops or click on the link below in the episode summary. Hit pause and go sign up. I cannot wait to see you there. I love Marcus Aurelius, man. He has some really awesome quotes, and one of my favorites is, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. Isn't that so good? If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. Super empowering. It's within our power to choose how we see other people, how we see ourselves, how we see God, the universe, how we see this world, how we see life. It is within our power to decide whether we're going to be critical or if we're going to be loving, preferring, believing the best about people, giving people the benefit of the doubt, choosing to love people and be compassionate and kind towards them, no matter what, even the people that have screwed you over, realizing that it didn't have anything to do with you, it had everything to do with them. But you can learn from it, which is good. So a couple things of what to do instead of being critical and critically, judgmentally thinking of people is notice when you begin to think distrustfully. That's the first one. And instead, think of alternative ways of seeing the situation. And I'll see this, whether I'm driving or whether I'm at the store or whether it's at work in a conversation with people. I see this all the time. And I have to really work at not immediately distrusting somebody or immediately not giving them the benefit of the doubt, especially with like work politics. Sometimes that can be the worst. And it's really hard to not just by default judge people and by default not give them the benefit of the doubt and to just assume they're out for themselves, right? And they're climbing the ladder and will run over anyone in order to keep their job. It's hard to not think like that. But instead, we also need to learn to let go of judgment and to look for the evidence before labeling people. And I think that's huge too, especially in this world that we live in right now, with everything that is going on socially and politically. It is so hard to not label people, but that's actually a part of what's happening in our society is that we're saying take off the labels, take off the history, take off the labels, because people are people and we cannot judge somebody by race, ethnicity, sex, orientation. We cannot judge people by the way that they look, whether they're from a nice walk of life or whether they're homeless, living on the street, a drug addict. We cannot judge people. We cannot label anyone. Everyone is existing and we are connected to everyone. There is nobody that you aren't connected with. If we truly believe that we are all connected, that we are all from the same source, right, of love and light, then we can't see ourselves as separate. We can't judge another person. If we're judging somebody, then we're judging ourselves. And that's another point that I want to speak on, that if you're self-critical, you need to love yourself. That's really the key to then not being critical of other people. If you see how critical you are of yourself, or if you encounter somebody that's super critical, a lot of people have parents or family members or even friends that are super critical people. I always have the thought, dang, if that's how they are with me or with other people, how much more do they criticize and put themselves down? Judge themselves. What is their self-talk like? Must be awful if they're like that with other people, because that's usually where it stems from. So it's going inward and seeing, am I like this within myself? Most likely it'll be a yes. And to heal that and to accept yourself and love yourself for who you are, no matter where you are in your life and in your walk, because you're on a journey like everybody else and nobody is better than the other person. Nobody is lower than another person. Everybody has the same value and worth and worthy of respect and worthy of being honored, right? We are all worthy of respect and honor and giving preference to one another. And I am so happy to see that society is moving in that direction. It's actually really encouraging. One last final point on what to do instead of being critical or judgmental is notice how your critical thinking affects your relationships, friendships, acceptance of others. Once you notice the effect that you're having, that it's actually hurting you and people actually are now learning to distrust you and to not share with you about their life and how they're doing because they know that they're automatically going to be judged and criticized and put down. And if you ever noticed that, which I have, it's very painful because then you realize I'm doing to people exactly what I'm assuming people are doing to me. I am doing exactly what I hate. And I obviously need to heal. There's something about me, the standard that I'm, living with, that is obviously I'm super critical and judgmental of myself. And I'm not accepting and loving of myself, and I really need to. I found that a lot with religion, with Christianity, and the way that I was told things, even when I was in management and leadership positions within the church. I really found that a lot of things were very judgmental, very critical. And if I could go back now, I would be a completely different leader. I would be a completely different person in all of those situations and circumstances. I would react completely differently. I remember a friend of mine that was in the same church as me. She sinned. She almost had sex with somebody. And she was also a part of the leadership team. And she broke down in tears telling me. And it was a really difficult situation. And I wish that I still would have reacted a little bit differently. But when she told me, I laughed a little bit. And I was basically on purpose making light of it because I knew how hard she was being on herself. And I just asked her, well, was it good? And she was so shocked by that reaction because that is not what you usually do in church, right? You don't ask people if they've sinned and done the ultimate sin of having sex with somebody or almost did, that usually it's like, how dare you allow yourself to be in that kind of situation? You're in leadership. And it's usually this huge, like, big finger in your face, right? Instead, I just chose to laugh and make light of it and ask her if it was good, not because I cared if it was good. That wasn't the point. The point was, look, we're human, and this is not the end of the world. And you have such a good heart that you want to be the best leader and you want to do everything to the best of your ability. And this doesn't define you, just even if it was a mistake, because it's not somebody that you necessarily wanted to be in a relationship with, or, it was just a moment of weakness and passion or whatever, I look back on that and I'm proud that I reacted that way even then, because even then I still was like, oh, but that's a sin and now you have to repent and now we have to tell the pastors and blah, 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 because I was so in this dogma, fundamental way of living life that now this is how we have to be accountable, which, it's meant for good, but it didn't benefit anybody in my experience. It definitely didn't benefit me. Then people were resentful, even though I did nothing wrong and I was just following what I was told I was supposed to do. Those people still didn't trust me, right? Because it was so painful and so shaming and just filled them with guilt. And I think for me, I'm still forgiving myself, even though I felt like, gosh, is this right? And it was really hard for me to figure out and walk out. I'm still so thankful that I had such a heart that I was open to that I even saw that. But thank God that I'm not like that anymore. And I've realized that, gosh, it is never worth shaming anyone. Now I don't see it so much as right and wrong. We're on a journey, and some things benefit you and some things do not. And that isn't necessarily because it's a sin or it's not a sin. It's because it is either life-giving or it's life-taking, right? It either is being done out of a place of goodness, out of truth, out of love, out of light. You're either making a choice out of that place, or you're making a choice out of taking and getting everything that you can get from somebody, and you're all in it for yourself and you're selfish. Then that's a different place. And those people that are like that are on their own journey. And there's no judgment there. They're going to learn a lot of hard lessons. That's a hard way to live life. But eventually, if you believe, in like the law of one, where Ross states that it all ends up in the same place, everyone has to be reconciled to love and light, right, to the source. And everyone eventually comes to it, but it's the path that they choose. And so there's no judgment in that path. If God doesn't judge, if the source of life, the universe, does not judge you, but it presents you with continued opportunities towards deciding which way you're going to go, are you going to live selfless or selfishly? Are you going to give or are you going to take most of your life? And that's everyone's right to choose. If we're not critical of other people, then life really does end up a little bit better and easier for you because you're taking the good from the bad and you're not hurting yourself, because even if you are critical of just even yourself, it can still cause harm to your body, to your mind. I mean, it's amazing that the body reacts in that way because of the level of negativity. I'll close with this, a quote from Lao Tzu: simplicity, patience, compassion. These three are your greatest treasures. Simple in actions and thoughts, you return to the source of being. Patient with both friends and enemies, you accord with the way things are. Compassionate towards yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Right now, you can notice when you think distrustfully. You can let go of judgment and also recognize how your critical thinking affects your relationships, friendships, and acceptance of others. Let's deeply accept ourselves and share that same acceptance with others. Soulish is not only a podcast, but a community where we can relate to each other and support each other in our soul journeys. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at I Am Soulish. I can't wait to connect with you there.